Welcome to Date with Danu right here on Hi TV, your luxury channel. Today we are going to be speaking about obstacles and how do you come out of it with a smile. We'll speak more as we move on with the show.
Hi, I'm Ishan
Hi, I'm Shavini.
and we are here to go on a date with Danu. So we are here because, I have been on so many TV shows, but then, Danu has been my friend for the past 12 plus years and, he wants to show my human side. So I have a feeling that, this is the best platform to do that. So, thank you, Danu.
And we, on this show together, we'll be talking about our journey, how we got here and how we ended up, getting married and, progressing in life.
Welcome to the show. Today it's going to be a very special edition to Date with Danu. We're going to be talking about some challenging topics that few people in our country face, and how do we address it and how do we speak about it. That's what we're going to talk about. Today I'm really happy to have a very outspoken gentleman who I have been inspired by many a times. We've worked on a few youth projects together. I have had the privilege of sitting alongside him, with him on many things, and today I'm having him on my show and it's really an honor to have Ishan. Thank you for being here, Ishan. And also we have Shavini, and you guys got married last October.
No, let's say 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay, well, 2020 to 2022 was nothing. So we will consider it as just
Yes.
y'all are newly married.
Absolutely.
Considering the fact that 2 years we were just looking at the walls and waiting. Anyway, I think y'all might have had an eventful 2 years.
We did. Pretty much, and then eventful in the sense, lots of exciting opportunities, lots of, ups and downs, lots of, things that we had to overcome. And we are here.
Made it through. All right. So, Ishan, I'm going to start with you. Now, there is always these terms when it comes to addressing somebody who is blind. They will say, okay, you cannot say differently able, you can't say disabled, or you can't say blind. There are so many terms that media has been given, and you don't know what will offend someone and what will not. How have you seen this?
So it's like this, Danu. Now, the internationally accepted term, that is, term which is being used by the United Nations and all other international stakeholders, international partners, is person with disability.
Right.
Person or youth or child or whatever, right? So with that, this thing comes with the word disability, because in the field of disability, the word disability is actually their identity. Like my disability, that is my blindness, is my identity, right? And I go with it, I am cool with it, and I feel like, it's just a part of me. So, person with disability. And why do I say person first? Because instead of saying disabled person with disability gives a human, human touch.
That
right?
is true. And
so
this whole
person
term
comes first,
differently able was sort of moved aside, because
Yes.
there is nothing differently able. You are able and that's it.
Now say, you, Danu, me and Shavini and, all the people who are, doing the shooting here. Of course, I'm pretty sure they are doing a wonderful job. So, everyone, we all are differently able.
Correct.
You can, dance, I can sing, someone can, do pole vaulting, whatever, right? So, everyone has a different ability. So, that's, that it doesn't mean anything.
That is true. That's amazing. Now, let's go back to love story times. So y'all had a mutual love towards a greater tomorrow for this country,
Yes.
a Sri Lanka that is prosperous for everyone, and so y'all met on a political ground.
Yeah.
Very nicely put, Danu. Very nicely put.
I'm a civil engineer turned political activist turned life coach.
Right.
So what happened was, when I met Ishan, I was a civil engineer working at a government project, and just about 6 months before the constitutional coup,
Right.
52 days still happened, And
When we were left with 2 prime ministers.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you can imagine like working on mega projects and having this situation. It just totally opened my eyes to the corruption on both sides of the political
spectrum,
equation.
yeah.
On all sides, I'd say, of the political equation, and I was sick of it. So what I did was I just put out a post saying that I'm not going to vote for these guys again. And then I found another group of guys, like exclusively 4 other guys or 5 other guys who were doing the same thing, and we teamed up together and we became Dialog Ch. And through that movement, then about 6 months later, I think the Easter attacks happened.
And then from there I'll carry on. Right? Because then starts the interesting part. So basically, at that point, I was working for an NGO called Sri Lanka Unites. Basically, a grassroots level, peace building organization.
Right.
So 2019, after the Easter Sunday attacks, we wanted to see what we can do to make sure that there's no place in Sri Lanka for violent extremism. Right.
True.
So what we did was, I coordinated. I was a program manager for clubs and interest groups at that time. So I was tasked with convening a meeting, of like people from different organizations, from different community groups and all of that. So I got down about 40 to 50 people from different organizations. I invited a guy, who happens to be a member of Desi Paipa, right? But fate has it, or I don't know how to put it, right? He just did not turn up. He was, busy with something else. And then, he had assigned her to come instead of him, like to represent the group.
Right.
So, rest is history.
So y'all met, and what was your initial conversation with him?
We okay, I think best thing is you just tell what's the impression you had about me.
Okay.
When you came for the meeting. I think that's better.
Yeah. So actually, we didn't personally interact.
Right.
So what happened was, so there was this, as he said, about 50 youth activists, most of them ladies, and so like everybody was asked to introduce themselves, right? So everybody, like about 3/4 of the females in the room were like, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I
Represent
Ishan,
this.
I represent this," and Ishan was the one who invited me. "Hi, Ishan." It got to the point where Prashant was heading the meeting. He said, "We'll have Ishan's engagement today."
Yeah. So, all right. So, Ishan had all these phone numbers with him. All right. Amazing. All right. We're going to get into a break. We'll come back on the other side with more, especially about the challenges that you face when you're in Sri Lanka and as a person with disability. We'll speak more when we do come back after this. Welcome back to the show, and I wanted to speak to Ishan a little bit about the love that you have towards knowledge. You didn't let any of these challenges stand in the way. You went to St. Thomas's College. How was school life?
School life was very interesting, and it's like this. So I'll tell you my school history from the beginning almost. Like I initially went to President's College Maharagama. That was just for 1 year.
Right.
And like I was just the laziest kid in school. I was always, my head was always on the desk, and I just didn't know what was going on. Absolutely clueless. So my mom was told that there's this place called the School for the Blind, Rakmalana. And then what happened was, she and my dad, they admitted me to blind school. This was in 1995. And then I studied there up until O-levels. And then after that, as you said, yes, I went to St. Thomas's to do my A-levels. I did Greek and Roman civilization, economics and English as my subjects for A-levels. During that time, what I felt was, okay, that was definitely a culture shock. Blind school was pretty much, very vulnerable and, less privileged kids. Whereas St. Thomas's, it's all, the kids were talking about parties and girls and boozing and all of that. So it was a culture shock. And for me, it was, I adapted, but it was not easy to adapt. And
now, was the school ready to adapt you, or did you adapt to the school?
school was, what I would say is, school was not, they were willing to adapt me, as in they were willing to, accommodate me, but, they were not ready.
Right.
Because, they did not have the facilities in place, they had not, taught a blind kid earlier, so they just didn't know what to do. So, yeah.
So, your classmates, were they empathetic? Were they understanding? Were they willing to listen to you?
They were kind. They were very nice people. They were definitely willing to listen to me. But, empathy, these are anyway just young, teenage kids, right? So, like, they are still learning. And, now, knowing what I know about those guys, they're actually a bunch of amazing people. It's just that during that time, they just, they were learning.
And they didn't know how to express it.
They didn't know how to express it, and they didn't know what to expect from me in the first place.
Correct. And the hormones didn't help.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
So, it was a very different experience for me and for them also.
Right. I'm coming to the missus now.
Yes.
Now, you went for this one team youth movement meeting, and now you have started this spark towards this gentleman here.
Not really.
Okay, well, there was kind of a spark.
Yeah.
How was it to tell your family?
Okay. That was probably the toughest part. So I did not.
By the time when you sort of realized, okay, this is the man I want to marry and make a life with, and from there is when your conversation with your parents would have started.
Yeah, so my dad passed away in 2014, so he was out of the picture, but my mom was there. And I did not tell her for the longest time that I was dating him, because I knew she'd freak out, because blind, A, and B, Muslim.
Right.
Right.
There were two things coming.
Two things.
Yeah.
Like, although he's actually Malay, but then.
Yeah.
So I one day I just sat her down and I told her that I'm dating this guy, and that he's really accomplished, that he's gone to all these countries and all of that. And then I dropped the bomb. And it didn't end well. She started crying, and for the next 6 months also, it was basically a lot of ups and downs, a lot of drama, and there were a lot of other relatives and random people who just pitched in to give me unsolicited advice.
Right. They were worried about the fact that the future, whether he's going to always be dependent on you.
Yes.
But you have lived your 20 odd years of life at that time, or 30 odd years of life, very independently, correct, Ishan?
Ishan?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Like, as in, my of course, my, dad, he used to guide me wherever I go and all of that. But then, I have my life, like even now, even after marriage or even before marriage, whatever. I, sometimes go with friends, like partying, and, I just come home at like, 12:31 in the night, and like, I just live a normal life, just like other guys. So, yeah.
Have you ever, help me out here. I know a lot of people would have asked this question. How have you visualized the person seated next to you?
Interesting. So, when I met her initially at that event I was referring to earlier, the impression that I got was that, like, okay, it's like this, I can't say whether, this person is, short or tall or what, like, not those, like, physical
not the characteristics
features
that surface oriented.
Yeah, but then what I felt was, she's a determined woman, and, she'll not stop halfway. That I felt like from the beginning itself. So, even now to this day, I do have that feeling. And, but sometimes I have this thing, it's kind of weird also, like when people speak, I can just say whether they are, I just can't say people's character in a different, I don't know how it comes, but it just happens.
But because, they say when one of your senses are not with you, the other senses work overtime. And so you seem to understand and fathom more things around you faster. which is amazing. We're going to get into a break because I'm going to come back and speak about the reason why Ishan decided not to do his masters. It's an interesting story and a story that our education system should pay attention to when we do come back. Thank you, Abans, for joining us on the show. And here I'm talking about the twin washer that's with LG Vivace. This amazing washing machine can take 2 loads at the same time. One here and one right here. With LG's twin washer, you get a chance to put 2 loads at the same time. Are you tired of washing multiple loads because you don't want to mix your whites and your colored clothing? Or if you have concerns when it comes to your color clothing bleeding into your white clothing, or even those silk sensitive clothing that you have? Also, sometimes it's not the greatest idea to have your baby clothes washed with the other clothes. Well, all these concerns can now go to rest because we have a solution right here. The main washer is for the bigger loads, laundry and also large items, whereas you can use the mini washer that's ideal for baby clothes, undergarments, white clothing and those delicate ones that you don't want mixing up in the bigger load up there. You can also wash separately but at the same time. Now, a feature that I'm falling in love with every single time I hear about it is the Wi-Fi feature. Now, this machine has an inbuilt Wi-Fi router that makes it so easy. Now, Ishan is also looking at me thinking, you know, Danu, this is a good purchase because wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can still operate this washing machine on your phone. All you have to do is download LG ThinkQ app to access this facility. Wi-Fi will enable you to wash your clothes from anywhere at any time. You can be at a coffee shop, shopping, at office, overseas. Well, you can still get your washing done on time. And here are the cool solutions. You can monitor the energy consumption, check on the remaining washing time, change the washing cycle, download additional washing cycles, and so much more. All you need to have is the LG ThinkQ app. Well, get your hands on this right away. All you have to do is just visit any Abans showroom island-wide. If not, log on to www.buyabans.com. Welcome back to the show. I actually asked Ishan, in your mind, do I have a flat stomach? He thought about it and he said no. Thanks. It's really hard now. What have you told about me, Shavini? It's your problem. Anyway, welcome back. I really have to speak about this. Now so you went into the normal education system and you studied your A-levels at St. Thomas's College and then you went into Colombo Uni.
Yes.
And what did you do there?
I did international relations as my special degree in the English medium, and that too was a challenge. Like, you know, I was there for 4 years, of course, because it is a special degree. I did not have access to a single Braille book. I don't know whether the audience knows, you know, Braille is the, you know, medium in which blind people study, right?
Correct.
So Braille books were basically out of the question, right? I requested from, you know, requested in different ways from, you know, different people from the administration to see whether, you know, I can at least get audio books or, you know, if some books can be, I don't know, like printed in Braille, because there was a center for the visually impaired in Colombo University.
Right.
Where, you know, they used to correct the examination papers and all of that. So I was trying, and, you know, they were also trying to help me. But then what happened, unfortunately, was I did not have access to a single Braille book, and I only had to depend on lecture notes given in class, and also depend on my knowledge about international relations, like, you know, because anyway it has been in my blood. Like I started listening to the BBC, you know, in that whole, you know, the Parana radio, you know, the whole old radio where, you know, they have the SW1, SW2 and all that.
Yeah, true.
So, you know, I used to listen to, you know, BBC on that radio at the age of 7.
Right.
And from then onwards, I have always been like a IR enthusiast.
Right. Okay.
So because of that, I was able to get through. But then it was very, very, very challenging.
So you finished your degree, and I'm sure you would have, because you have sat as a consultant on many things, you have spoken at multiple gatherings. Why have you said no to your masters for now?
For now, no, simply because this country is not disabled friendly. If I am to do masters, I have to get braille books or access any sort of accessible material, right? So accessible materials in Sri Lanka is something which is unfortunately not enough attention is being paid to that, right? So I will do my masters. It's not that I won't, but if I do it, it's not here. It's not in this country. But then I am also, on the back of my mind, I have this idea, what if we can do whatever we can to enable, this country to facilitate people like us to do masters without going anywhere.
Yeah, and why let more knowledge leave our country when we can actually have them here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because right now, let's be truthful. I know so many people. I chat on Facebook and I talk to people on the phone. Almost everyone's migrating, which is
That is
sad.
true.
Which is sad. Which should not be happening. But it's happening because the enabling environment is not there.
That is true. Shavini, your education and your passion that you really took off on is not where you eventually ended up. Now you're a life coach.
Yes.
And do you do that together with Ishan, or
No, it's my own thing.
that's your full-time thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what a typical day looks like for you. With Ishan, how does life sort of roll?
Okay, so obviously since Ishan is kind of limited in what he can do physically, so I have to basically do the things like getting the breakfast and making tea and all of that. So just the normal things that normal people do,
Yeah.
right? And then maybe around 9 or 10 o'clock I'd sit down and then I'd do my marketing stuff, my content creation, my copywriting, whatever that. And then maybe later in the day I'd do some networking. And then again in the evenings about 7 p.m. I'm off and then I'm back.
With him?
Yeah.
But Ishan, you're so active on Facebook and you're active on all of these. How do you do that?
So what happens is I have a voice software installed in my laptop.
Right.
So it's a screen reader. Now let's say when I type Danu, it's DANU, right? So it says DANU.
Right.
So I know that I typed the right word.
Right.
Right. That's how I type, and that's how I have access to emails. I can check, I can work on MS Word and all of these stuff. And I also, of course, as you know, I post stuff on Facebook and so that's how I network. Yeah.
That's amazing. When you were growing up, I'm sure a lot of people would have told you, Ishan, you can't do this. No. Don't even push yourself. Don't send your son here. It might be challenging and you are just going to affect him. What were those words? What did you feel at that time, and what did you think at that time?
Yeah. So thanks for that question. It's like this. I'll give you a very good example. When I was at St. Thomas's, I did rowing as a sport, right? That was such a coincidence. 2007 Royal Thomian big match. I was there with my economics teacher because she wanted me to experience it.
Right. The ambience.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was just kind of enjoying the whole show, and then this gentleman, he just walked up to me and he was like, "Hi Ishan, I am Ajit Gunawardena. I am the prefect of games at St. Thomas's, and I am also the coach for the St. Thomas's rowing crew." And he was like, "Ishan, would you like to try rowing?" And I just did not know what the hell rowing was, right? And I just did not know I knew the word was there, but I didn't know what it entails, what it means, right? And I was like, if you can give me a proper training, and if there's no risk, if there's no harm done, why not, right? And then I joined rowing, and when I joined rowing, there were so many people, like in school. I told you earlier, right? They were willing to accommodate, but they just didn't know how. Right?
Yeah, that is true.
So, they were asking, Ishan, why are you doing this? This is not for you. This is not for a blind person like you. You are practicing at Bear Lake, and you'll fall into Bear Lake. All of that. Of course, as you know, Bear Lake stinks, and it stinks bad.
Yeah.
So
anyone who was there might just
Yeah.
automatically come out.
yeah. So no swimming talents needed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, all of that was said, but then if I, what happened was I was determined, and my coach was determined, and I ended up rowing, and I ended up participating for the Royal Thomian Mini Regatta back in 2007. And later on I learned that at that point, of course now things are different, at that point I was the first ever born blind person
Who?
in the world to do competitive rowing.
That's amazing.
So even
Unknowingly, unknowingly setting a record, which is cool.
Yeah.
All right, great. I actually wanted to ask, this show is a bit edgy. And they have watched the show and done their research. Good kids, I must say. Now, I really wanted to know about something. When we do come back, we're going to be speaking about how is it to be intimate. I had to ask Ishan and Shavini whether it's okay for me to ask this question. And they were like, yeah, we have watched your show, go for it, which is great. Something that we live in such a superficial world, a world that is seen, they judge you by the car you drive, they judge you by what you wear, how you smell. All of these are number one reasons. I'm not talking about whether you stink. I'm talking about the fragrance that you use. These are things that people tend to judge you based on. But whereas the element of finding, the attraction element leaves you the first few months, and later on what you have is love, and then it just rolls down to companionship. Whether you have somebody who you can call your own, have a conversation that is warm and friendly and who understands you, and that is what you need. And when it comes to a relationship like this, and especially both of you so young, and you all can have so much in life, the point of attraction and the point of intimacy, how was that? And how was it complicated? Was it easy? Ishan, let's first start with you.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so before I, dated her, and, before I fell in love with her, I had never dated.
Right.
I have had so many crushes on, like different girls, and,
Yeah, because all of them have been saying your name, no? I came because of Ishan. I am here because of Ishan. I'm only here for Ishan.
Yeah, so, had a countless number of crushes, but then, fell in love with her, and then...
Did you ever think marriage was on the cards for you?
I initially didn't.
Okay.
But later on, maybe, like, what I thought was... maybe marriage might be on the cards, but I was not, like, I never gave it a serious thought.
Right.
Right. But then, once I met her and, fell in love, what I felt was, because, okay, it's like this, I'll bring a very interesting perspective here. Her own brother is also autistic.
Right.
Right. So, she has that empathy, which is very, very important, when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to attraction. Like, if you're just attracted, only for, lust or all the, other stuff, like, it doesn't long last. Like, it doesn't last long, right? It's just, it's very, as you said, very superficial. Whereas, her level of empathy can easily be, it's easily convertible, it can be easily interpreted to a very deeper sense of attraction. Like, for me also, what I felt was that I can count on her, that I can trust her, right? And and like, now, we are not a perfect couple, like, sometimes she's a bit absent-minded, if I may put it that way. But then, but then I always know that
Sometimes
she's
he's a
there.
bit mean.
Huh?
Sometimes he's a bit mean.
So, with all of that, but we know that we are there for each other.
Yeah, end of the day, that's what matters.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the final conclusion. How was it for you? I'm sure your friends would have had so much of opinions, because end of the day, when we go to local schools, we tend to talk about all of this. And Shavini, how was it when you sort of broke it to your friends? And I'm sure they would have asked you questions. And how did you handle that and tackle that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because it was very telling, because okay, the sort of person that I am, people don't really, like to say stuff directly to my face.
Right, because they know that the answer is going to come
Yeah.
5 times more.
Yeah. So basically, but then when I told my, people that I'm dating that somebody like this, they were like, okay, and all of that. But as you say, time reveals character.
True.
And I found in a certain environments that people were kind of excluding me, starting to exclude me, starting to kind of disregard him. And I just, noped out of that, because, what matters at the end of the day is this is my husband, this is a person that I've chosen to, lead my life with.
And also, he didn't choose to be blind.
He didn't choose to be blind.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, of course, I get these other comments, very interesting comments from ladies, right? Like, how do you...
Yeah,
And
have
then-
sex.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I have this handsome person, right? And who's obviously very strong. By the way, he's very, very strong physically. And then
Yeah, he also did rowing.
he did rowing. Yeah. So he's very, very strong. He's very, very handsome. And then he can sing. And then, he interprets the world without the sense of sight, right? Which means, he uses his hands and the
Hands.
other senses. So what is wrong in that equation?
Yeah. I think it's a better equation.
It is a better equation. Sorry, Mom.
But it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how is your family taking it right now?
Yeah, so
2 years into the marriage.
So we met in June, and then we started dating in July. In December, 2019. Then 2020 January we decided to get married.
Right.
And 2020 June I told my mother that, hi Mom, I'm getting married.
It was,
Come.
hi Mom, I'm getting married.
Come.
That's it.
Come.
Like, you had already set your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she came round, and she came and she blessed him, and she actually came to our wedding, and she likes him because he's such a nice person and open and all of that. So that's kind of settled.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
The family, and even like my in-laws, as in,
Yeah,
they're actually very nice to me.
The extended family just loves him. So.
Right. That's amazing. We're going to be speaking more when we do come back. Do stick around. It's Date with Danu after this. Welcome back to the show. Our final segment. We're having a very warm conversation. And it's also a conversation that allows us to sit and think. Sometimes how grateful we are. Sometimes are we actually thanking our blessings? Because these are the things that make us sit down and realize. And also I feel in life, somebody's problem can never be related by another person, and the equations of the problem could be so different, but something could be so life-threatening and the other one could be so frivolous, but yet those two instances teach you something in life. But having a person born with disability, parents find it very shocking. They feel, oh my God, it's going to be a burden, especially on the siblings. It has so many thoughts that sort of come along with it. Now, tell me, for you, what would you tell, even as a mum to be soon, hopefully, even to the parents who have had this challenge or who are facing it right now? What would you tell them?
Okay, so I think more than the lack of facilities, more than the lack of the actual disability of that person, what really disempowers Ishan, right? Being the person, the powerful person that is, what really disempowers him, and what disempowers my brother who's autistic, is the stigma, right? So when, for example, if you take my brother to a restaurant, everybody's like, right?
There's curiosity, but the
Curiosity
wrong way.
and in a wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's sad because there are so many people with disabilities in Sri Lanka, right? And the parents keep them at home. They keep them shut at home because they're afraid of what people would say, and that kind of perpetuates a stigma. That kind of makes disability this thing that we don't have.
And also they force autistic kids not to embrace their autism.
Yes.
They're forced into normal schools. They're forced to study the normal curriculum, which is harder for them.
It is.
Yeah. And your mom would have dealt with it, and you might have become this empowered person because you also had a brother who you had to sort of stand up for and be there for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to actually tell, if I know there are a lot of parents with children who have disabilities and who are watching this show probably, and what I want to tell you all is to just not hide your children, to bring them out on the open, let people see them and let society adapt to them instead of the other way around.
That is true. That is true. Ishan, you have done remarkable work, and what I sometimes sit and wonder is, nothing stops you, right? It can be a good thing and an annoying thing both at the same time. Yeah, and she actually agreed on that. In a way that you see the world, but you hear about the corruption, you hear about the negative way that our country has been driven, to the people who have had all the blessings in the world taking advantage of their blessings to do the wrong things. What have you thought about personally when you sit alone? Have you ever felt like, man, why do I have this? Have you ever wanted and wished for the vision?
That's a very complicated question indeed, but then answers are also, I think for the answers we need a separate show. But then, what I'm thinking is, yes, there's a lot of bad things going on in the country. There's a lot of chaos, economic, political, social chaos, right? But then what we need to, what I'm always thinking is, if you watch 4 TV channels, if you watch 4 or 5 news broadcasts, everything is promoting, everything is kind of, all the newscasts are highlighting things that will end up depressing you, right? What I'm thinking is, what can we do to change the system, from ourselves, starting from us? Because, the whole Aragale happened last year, and, everything, this country experienced something which was not seen before. And everyone wanted a system change.
True.
And what I feel, the system change, the real system change, has to start from you. And when I say start from you, what I mean is solutions-based approaches. If we, just keep on watching the news and, crying foul about what's going on and, just always complaining, sitting back and complaining, that won't help. What will really help this country at the end of the day, and what will really empower our citizens is if we can think of solutions-based approaches.
That is true.
So that's my answer. In the sense, now, of course, there's corruption, there's nepotism, there's so much of let's say there's oppression, oppression of dissenting views, whatever, right? But then what we need to think about also is, we need to think about the solutions, how to move forward, and also we need to do our part to make Sri Lanka's citizens, especially the young people, outward looking rather than inward looking.
That's amazing. And that's true. Well, on that note, on that positive note, I think I'm going to wrap things up on the show. Thank you so very much for being here. I really hope
Danu.
you enjoyed this experience as much as I did.
Absolutely.
But I have to say is the very transparent conversation is what I wanted to have, and you all were up for it, and I'm so grateful. And I wish you just absolute bliss. Lots of babies, lots of lots of romantic nights and success in all what you do. And thank you so very much. And I think
Thank you, Danu.
I think there's a lot to learn from people like you, and I'm humbled by you being on this show.
Thank you so much.
On that note, we need to wrap things up. Thank you so very much for being a part of Date with Danu. We will see you soon. Till then, you keep smiling. It's a wrap.